TyroneTG3 here, and welcome to Pokemon Sun and Moon Anime Reviews. Today we'll be doing the review of episode 16. This episode is titled A Tiny Trio on a Big Adventure, and here with me is Ninja Kenny. Introduce yourself, sir.
What's going on YouTube? This is Kenny Lowe. I'm here with my boy Tyrone, and we're about to get this Pokemon review off the ground.
Alright, so, this episode, to give a short plot summary, long story short, I would have to say this is a Pikachu short minus the Pikachu. Does that make any sense?
Trust me, I've seen so many Pikachu shorts. This was a Pikachu short.
So yeah, I think that's the best description to give this entire episode. Is like it was a Pikachu short minus the Pikachu, but we still got Pikachu. He was with the team, which is very unusual and a very weird way to mix it up. Because normally when we have Pokemon-based episodes strictly about the Pokemon, or we just have the Pikachu shorts, we usually have them completely separate from the trainers.
Right, and see what
yeah.
what I liked about this one is it focused on the three starters. Because you normally don't ever really get a three-starter trio like this, on an adventure like this with out Pikachu. So this one was a pretty good one to me, because in the past you've always seen when Ash always captured all three starters, it
Yeah.
will always be with Pikachu. But this is the first time you rarely ever see them team up together without Pikachu.
And I think the closest episode I think we have that's similar to this one in comparison, there's a Johto episode where Ash is playing sports. He's playing with his starter Pokemon, Chikorita, Cyndaquil, Totodile, and then Pikachu, obviously. And I think something happens in the middle of all of that causes them to split up, and they gotta search for each other, the whole 9 yards. Or even to a lesser extent, I remember the two-parter episode that had to do with Ash and the others being shipwrecked, and then they ended up on an island, on
Yeah,
Pokemon
I remember
Island.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
I
they all
remember
had
that.
to. But even in those examples, like you said, Kenny, those were with Pikachu.
And see, that's what, and like I said, Ty, when I saw this episode, it was a breath of fresh air, because you see only those three without Pikachu. Every time he has three starters, every time you get the three starters, Pikachu's right there, always. And
So, yeah, and the reason that this works so well, though, is because of the fact that when you take away Pikachu from the three starters, and the three starters are essentially the focus of this episode, while looking for them is literally the subplot, like Ash and the others looking for them is the second half of the plot.
right,
What you have done when you take Pikachu away, because no matter how many ways you want it to be, Pikachu's the main character and the mascot, so he sucks in all of the attention. Like the
true,
story revolves around him primarily when
right.
he's with the other Pokemon. Here, what you have done is that you have made the three starters have the spotlight and deviated our attention away from Pikachu by having the other three starters take position of the spotlight. And honestly, I think it did a better job expressing each of their characters more.
Now, see, and that's what I got from this episode, because if you think about it, look how Rowlet was, him always falling asleep. Then you got Poplio over there blowing bubbles, learning how to, make them last longer and be more sturdy. And
Yeah.
then we get the surprise return of who coming down.
Lit
And
in the Edge Cat,
yes,
yeah.
and we get all three of them, and you get to see all three of their personalities. Because if you remember, for those who haven't played the game, spoiler alert, each of the Pokédex entries for each one of them gives off a personality trait, and you get to kind of almost see those personality traits in this episode, and that's what made this episode so good, because you got to see Litten be, like the loner type Pokemon. Then you got Rowlet, going, being the goofy one, and you got Poplio is like the dancer, but really didn't do no dancing. However, with the blowing of the bubbles as being acrobatic, you get to see all of that in this episode.
And I think we even got to see some personality traits that stray away from just the Pokedex entries. Like, I think for one example, and I think this is a really good episode to implement Team Rocket in, and Pokemon Sun and Moon is doing a lot of what X and Y did, where they're using Team Rocket but sparingly. They're not throwing Team Rocket shamelessly into every episode. Like if Team Rocket, I think sometimes they'll even make Team Rocket show up in an episode but not interact with our heroes. It'll just be like a comic gag in the background. that gets affected by something. But Team Rocket essentially was in this episode, but they weren't in the Rockruff episode, which was good. So
Right.
the episode actually does a good job of using Team Rocket very sparingly. And this was a prime example of them using Team Rocket well because it puts conflict on the three starters.
And what I loved about this is that because of the fact that they're using Team Rocket sparingly, it makes their appearance more comical. You know, when they're really needed in that situation. Besides Best Wishes, you know, when they was really serious, but now they're back in their comedic role. So it kind of fit in this episode really well because if you remember, well, we're not going to get into much story as of yet until we get to that part. It was that one part that I want to talk about later about when Meowth meets up with Litten and what happens in that little part. What made it so funny? That
Right.
was so.
So I guess that's a good segue to give a brief plot summary because since we're both here together, it'll be really long if we try to stretch it out.
I
Long story short, when Poplio is trying to test out its bubbles, it ends up a lot of antics end up happening to where Rowlet ends up getting caught in the bubble, and then several attacks go off. And comical relief happens, and long story short, Poplio and Rowlet get separated from Ash and the others. Obviously, this means that Ash, Rockruff, Pikachu, Lana, and Malo have to go find the
them.
Poplio and the Rowlet. Then they end up meeting up with Team Rocket with Rowlet, and Poplio end up getting caught. And when they end up getting caught, Rowlet ends up getting caught in this ring trap. And because it was caught in this ring trap, it was part of this satellite that they were using for a trap later. But because of this, that means Rowlet can't fly. And I guess they did that so Rowlet couldn't easily find Ash and the others. Because if it
And
could
that's true.
fly, we wouldn't have an episode.
Right, because see, and you think about it, he was with Poplio and he couldn't carry Poplio and his weight at the same time because they were struggling as they fell into Team Rocket's, satellite dish. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like, okay, all the other bird Pokemon really could carry their weight, but I have to remember. Rowlet is that really spherical type bird, so he can't really hold too much weight
Yeah,
right
he's
now.
really small. And I like how the fact that Rowlet actually held Poplio without flying. And Poplio is like, whoa, wait a minute. You were flapping your wings the
we
last time you
and
did it.
he started holding on to him like, okay, now like you say, he was flapping his wing a minute ago, but now you're holding on to me. What's the problem? We can't fly this way. And then that's when they
Yeah.
end up falling into Team Rocket's little, plot device that they had a few seconds ago.
Yeah.
Uh,
So they managed to escape Team Rocket thanks to the efforts of Litten showing up. And once that happens, Team Rocket splits up. And we end up seeing Meowth and Marini because Mimikyu's not going to fight. No Pikachu,
right,
no
no
fight.
Pikachu, right. And you know
So,
what? Before you go on, before that, have you noticed how creepy Mimikyu be looking every time it actually comes on screen?
yeah, I think it's because it's a ghost type. It makes sense.
But
So then afterwards we end up getting a moment where Meowth ends up meeting up with Marini and Litten and Rowlet, and I think this is the moment you wanted to talk about.
right, and see at this point when they meet up, Rowley has that little plot device, that collar around his neck for some apparent reason. He fell on top of it. So as Meowth comes to find out what's going after Litten finds out who they are, they start walking, and you get to see a little bit of the development between them three because Litten is still not trusting them, but he knows who Pokemon they are. Now, getting to the point, what I wanted to make was when Meowth comes, when they capture them, when they get captured, Meowth he finds out what's going on because Litten starts to talk to him, and he was like, he's this loner type Pokemon with a big heart, so he's trying to find, he's trying to help them, the other two get back to their trainer. But then he was like, well, why don't you come work for us? I'm sitting here like, okay, Meowth, why are you always trying to recruit somebody when you yourself is a Pokemon and you got two trainers over here who's too dumb to even try to capture the Pokemon? And you know what made it so funny is soon as Leighton said, okay, I'm gonna join you. You got Poplio and Rowlet looking like, huh? Are you serious? The moment he does it, he comes out. And I mean, that's when they all three takes the town, go to town on him. That was really done really well. I actually love that.
Anyone else like when? Because it was the first time they showed up. Anyone else do the thing where Litten and Meowth, like in my head, it was in my head. Litten and Meowth see each other in the forest. And did anyone else like reenact the Sonic the Adventure 2 scene? It's like Faker,
I know.
you're
You know what? That
comparing
was so funny.
yourself to me.
That was so funny. And I'm like sitting here because
Because
if you
they
think,
had a big cat fight. Well,
right,
not a
they had the
big,
cat
but they
fight.
had
Yeah.
like the cat claw each other fight.
Right, and then when you, because like you said, the little Sonic, because I remember now you have to remember my mind is old because I'm old, but I do love Sonic, and I remember how when you were saying they had the little battle, they were going from side to side, and especially with the balls, because you remember how Poplio, well, Litten, not Litten, Rowlet was being tossed around in the bubble, and I saw how he was going through like the ring thing. I say that was Sonic.
Well,
That.
not just that. I just mean more specifically the scene. There's a scene in Sonic Adventure 2 where Sonic and Shadow meet up in the forest, and
Oh, okay.
they have that fight, and that popped up in my head when I saw Litten and Meowth fight because it just showed up in my head, and like the way Litten comes off as more or less like an edge lord,
Right.
kind of like Shadow the Hedgehog. So
Yeah.
I do like the personality that they've given to Litten, and I like the fact that they meet up with Southland,
Yeah, and now that part right
so we
there,
can get some backstory on Litten.
yeah, now that part really was a great. I know people gonna say, "Oh, Kenny don't disagree with nothing that Sun and Moon is doing." I do have my, I do have my pros and my cons, but I haven't really seen that many cons just yet. But with this part right here, Stoutland knew Rowlet. He knew exactly who the trainer was and how they was communicating with each other. I think that was a good way to implement this because without Pikachu, you don't need Pikachu in this. This was their time to shine, and especially with Stoutland. Stoutland knew who the trainers, who they belonged to. He wanted Rowlet to take them back to their trainers, and Litton was like, "Why me? Why do I have to do all of this?" Now Rowlet, I mean not Rowlet, Litton, you have to remember, Stoutland is old. He can't do too much. He
Well,
can't.
yeah, I think it like because Litten didn't have a problem doing it more specifically because Southland told him to
To
do it.
do it. But see, you know what? I want to bring up this question. Now, as much as we seen Litton come into this, now I think you have touched on this before. Do you think he might be a capture for Ash later down the road?
Honestly, yeah. Well, there's actually a promotional poster that shows it off a little bit, but even before the poster, I think everybody was pretty much knowing that Ash was going to end up with Litten, more or less because I think what they're trying to do, they're trying to make Litten the most developed without having him have the exact same story as every other fire type that ends up on Ash's team.
Team, yeah, which
Where it's
is
like,
just true.
oh, he got an abandoned trainer, the abandoned trainer, I'll take care of you, and then like Cyndaquil's, where it's like he was gonna get caught by an abusive trainer. Well,
Trainer,
yeah. So yeah, I think they tried to mix it up this time and have him get a starter without doing that.
which I
So
would.
this time it's a transition from him being a wild to being on Ash's team. Because we even had this discussion before where it was like Ash just catch the Litten during the development episode of Litten.
Yeah, I remember
But
that because I
going
was
into
actually
it,
saying that too.
yeah, but going into it, they're actually building Litten's development, and that's at the end of this episode, which we should probably get to.
Right.
Um, they end up getting caught by Team Rocket again. They're in the net. Litten tricks Team Rocket by saying, "Yeah, I'll join you." Team Rocket then tries to open the gate to let Litten out. Litten then betrays them. Obviously, it was a setup. And then once they're free, they end up meeting up with Ash and Co. And that's basically the end of the episode as Litten runs off into the sunset and the episode's over.
Right.
That
Now,
moment right there where Litten walks off after Ash has looked after him, they're slowly foreshadowing it.
right, and I was gonna say that because when Ash walks up to him, he kind of tenses up at that moment. But the moment Ash says thank you, Litton looks up at him like, "Wow," it's like something just hits him and makes him realize that Ash is not the enemy. It's like like you said, they're foreshadowing that he's going to probably be on his team later on down the road. Now, how later we don't know. I'm hoping it's pretty soon because this capture will be it's essential to his team. So I'm hoping that it be soon.
Yeah, it should be because, like I said, considering the fact that they won. At first, I was hoping that it'd be really sooner than that, like during the Litton's character development
Yeah.
episode. But from what I see, they're actually doing a really good job of slowing the pace up to make the captures a lot more developed. And they were doing that since X and Y, I
Why?
believe. Even in, I think Best Wishes was the only time where Ash was just sort of catching them per episode.
And see, and that's what I was gonna say is because since we're on an island, and this, like I told you in the last video we did together, that I loved the Alola region. I'm thinking, he shouldn't catch every last Alola Pokemon. However, I'm thinking there's a few that I would love for him to catch, and we'll talk about that in another video. But I want to touch on a couple of other, character developments in this one right quick. Was being Lily, now not Lily, Lana. Now Lana, she actually shows a little bit of concern when Poplio is taken off, but
Yeah.
when they got into the city, well, when they got right before they went to the city, you see she's kind of sterns up and grab ashes and runs off. So that means like she's kind of developing a little. I mean, she's Mallow is the least developed, but we know Lana has gotten a little bit of development, but this showing her that she's getting a little stronger and taking charge and finding her friend without someone, holding her hand. This time she's taking his hand and going after what she's looking for.
Without straying too far off topic, I think because Mallow does explain that in that moment she gets particularly a switch goes off, particularly when it comes to Poplio. So that
Right,
moment that you're talking about where she grabs Ash and walks off, that was mostly because Poplio's life was on the line. Well,
line,
not
yeah,
life, but like Poplio's lost. Lana was concerned.
right.
So that's where we get that character because I could talk about character development for this video, but that take too
Too
long. Long
long,
story short,
yeah.
yeah. Long story short, I think there honestly needs to be an episode that doesn't involve Ash, but the rest of the trial captains as a episode to develop them. But that's another topic for another day.
True, and I'm
Long,
hoping that comes soon. I'm hoping that comes really soon.
it may not, to be perfectly honest, because I don't know the series just sort of needs Ash.
Basically.
I hate to say it, but Pokemon's not the type of anime to stray away from that. I think they only did it like once or twice,
And it was
and it was
kind
I
of
think it was
over
yeah,
episode.
and even then I think Ash was still in it, so he just it wasn't the focus. So then I think the Meowth, the Go West Young Meowth episode comes to mind when you're
Thinking about
referencing
that,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's a Team Rocket episode, but Ash does show up.
But he's not, like you said, the focus of
He's
it.
not the focus, yeah. But other than that, like this episode, going back to the topic of this episode for many reasons has a lot of great comedic moments that definitely exemplify the Pokemon. One that comes to mind is when Rowlet is asleep in the middle of Team Rocket's capture, and Poplio just sort of bounces him awake.
I love that because, like I said, he falls. That's what I love about his character. He's like the dopey or the goofy of the three. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna take a nap anytime I want. He just falls asleep. And what was so funny, me after was talking, and he was asleep. I
Yeah,
said,
just it's just obliviousness.
and I like that. I really like that.
And I like how Poplio actually does have an angry side to him or her. I can't remember what gender the Poplio is right now,
I
but Poplio like got angry at the fact that Rowlet was asleep and just sort of bounced them awake. It's like that was definitely a great moment of character for Poplio specifically.
man, I know.
And I think you might. What gender did you say Poplio was gonna be?
Well, I think she said it was a male, but I'm not 100% sure because
Uh,
I forgot too. I was thinking
I'm
it might have
shooting
been
more or
male.
less for female only because of this one moment where Layton saves them and Poplio is sort of starstruck by her.
Could be. Well,
Yeah, like Poplio just sort of admires Layton, but that could be just admiration, not infatuation.
Well, I haven't seen a Pokemon that has been infatuated in a long time since Corsola, not Corsola. What? What was the? Oh, Chikorita. That's who I was thinking about. Chikorita.
Well, I'm talking Pokemon to Pokemon, and if you're
Oh,
talking in
okay.
that sense, I think Frogadier and Braixen. When
Oh
Ash still had
yeah.
Frogadier.
Yeah, that was true. That was a. But see, well, that's a topic for another time about Dawn. I mean, not Dawn, but Serena
Serena.
and Ash's Pokemon breaks, and then Greninja. Why weren't they together?
Yeah,
But
well,
we could do
yeah,
that one.
it's just a slight assumption that Poplio might be a girl. But anyway,
Right.
I think other than that, the series, like I said, the series also did this episode in particular did a good job of showing off each Pokemon, not just the starters, but even like Rockruff was a recent capture, and it was the most useful in finding the trio because of its sense of smell.
And see, and I like that too because he didn't have to use odor sleuth. He didn't have to learn that. He's already a dog, so he can basically sniff out, scent. So all he had to do is, smell Ash's book bag, smell Lana's hands, and he already got the scent. And he was right off. He already knew where they were after he smelled them, and went right on to them. And that's what
Yeah, it
I
was just the
actually
fact
like.
that the starters kept moving. That
Right.
was why they couldn't find them immediately.
Right, and see, that's what I actually like how they utilize, like you said, utilize the other, except Bound Sweet. Bound Sweet is like the legendary Pokemon of this series at the moment, so she has nothing. She don't have to do anything, so she don't need no character
Yeah,
development.
she's too powerful. Yeah,
I'm sitting here like, when is
she's way too powerful.
the only last time we ever seen the legendary Pokemon do any work was with the Pancake Race,
Yeah.
and she lost that.
Yeah. Well, the only reason, because I know Rowlet, every time Rowlet hits towards Bounceway to get it like it's a fruit, she knocks a Rowlet away.
Yes, when I saw that when I saw that in the very beginning, I was like, "Now, really?" See, it was Bound Sweet who caused all of this to happen in the
Yeah,
first
pretty
place.
much. That was one of the antics that I was talking about.
I caught on to what you were saying, but I was just like, what when I first seen it, I was like, so this is the reason why these two was off where they were because of Bound Sweet, the legendary
Yeah.
Pokemon. Really? I
So
was
like at the end of the day, and this is my closing thoughts. You can give yours afterwards.
okay.
This episode was basically a split up episode. There's a lot split up episodes happen every time, but this was a split up episode with a twist to it. So I definitely gotta commend it for giving more of the focus to Ash's starters than just Pikachu or Pikachu plus the starters. Because like I said, once you have put Pikachu in the mix, he becomes the primary focus, and it's no longer about the starters. Now it's about Pikachu plus the starters, I guess. So yeah, any closing thoughts you want to give on this one?
Now, my only closing thought I have is that I actually like how the split up was done. You had the three starter Pokemon together, then you had the three trainers, with the one trainer plus the two trial captains looking for the Pokemon. And what I like is how those three starters work together. Normally, when you see the three starters, they don't starter Pokemon don't really coexist because they're already some of them are not together, or either if they're on Ash's team already, they already got their development, but not to the point where they need to be. So this was a breath of fresh air to actually see the three starters, even though they don't belong to all three of them. They actually work together somewhat. But all in all, it was a great episode for me, and I suggest everybody watch it.
Right. So, with that said, the next episode is episode 17, Alola Detective Rotom, The Mystery of the Lost Crystal. With that said, I will see you all then, everybody. Thank you, Ninja Kenny, for being in this video.
Thank you for having me.
Also, this video will be on his channel as well for his review. So on my video, I will send a link in the description that sends you to that channel. So if you just don't feel like watching it on my channel, you can watch it on his. But then
And
by the time you hear this announcement, that means you would have watched it on my channel. But if you want to watch it again on someone else's channel, just watch it on Kenny's channel.
and there will be a link in the description for his channel on mine as well. So if you don't want to look at mine, you can definitely look at his.
It's the
So
same video, plot twist, but But
So
if you want to watch it on, if you want to support both channels and watch it on both, then go right
right
ahead.
ahead.
So yeah, or if you're a subscriber to Kenny, then you'll see this video on his channel. Vice versa, if you're a subscriber to mine. But definitely go to his channel. He does great Pokemon content as well. So
And
with that said, did you have anything else to say, Kenny?
all I was gonna say is that you do great work as well. I'm a subscriber to Tyrone as myself, and you guys who's on my channel, make sure you hit up his channel, subscribe to him because he has great content as well. He keeps me laughing, and I guarantee he'll keep you laughing.
All right. With that said, we'll see you all then, everybody. Tyrone the God 3